You're listening to a story at Red Lantern Audio. Hope you have a pleasant time listening. If you enjoy it, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I was born into the prestigious Kong family in Longshan, the fourth child, named Eleanor Kong. My father was the current prime minister, trusted by the emperor above all others, and my mother, Lady Chen, was the virtuous principal wife who bore 6 children, 2 sons and 4 daughters. The Kong family precepts were written that the education within the inner chambers was stricter than the law itself. Daughters of the Kong family had to learn the 6 arts from the age of 3, in addition to the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and even the arts of the bedchamber, mastering everything 3 years ahead of common maidens. Father valued the eldest sons the most. My 2 elder brothers were kept by his side and taught personally since childhood. Among the legitimate daughters, only my eldest sister Vanessa Kong was specially regarded. That year, during the Double Ninth Festival, the Prince of the Kingdom of Han presented a gift of a pair of precious Heechan jade tokens. In front of everyone, Father instructed Mother to strictly educate eldest sister, because in the future she would step onto a path not meant for ordinary mortals. During the conversation, Father once said, "Yesterday, the Prince of the Kingdom of Han was granted a pair of double dragon jade pendants in front of the Emperor." I was small then and only saw my parents smile, not understanding the schemes hidden in those words. I only remember that His Highness from the Kingdom of Han was the only prince the Emperor took along on his southern tour that year. Leaving the flower hall, I met second sister Helena Kong leaning against the corridor railing, fanning herself with a round fan. Seeing me step out, her peach blossom eyes flashed, and her expression shifted briefly. "It is fortunate that fourth sister has come out. I have been waiting until my legs are tired." She smiled gently, holding my hand affectionately. "Just now the wet nurse said the coiled snake pattern on that jade is identical to the ritual vessels in the Imperial Ancestral Temple. Our eldest sister truly has great fortune." I did not yet understand the meaning, but she covered her lips with her fan and laughed softly. "Well, speaking of it is useless. It is sunny, so come with me to the garden to pick osmanthus flowers, and later I will have the kitchen make cinnamon cakes for you." She had always been like that, her words hiding needles while her tone was sweet as honey, making it impossible for the listener to guess what was true or false. In late spring, the wisteria bloomed, hanging down like purple silk ribbons. Under that flower trellis, eldest sister met cousin Timothy Chan. That man came from a humble background, but had a handsome appearance and gentle scholarly eyes. Regrettably, he struggled with the imperial examinations for many years without passing, so he had to accept menial work in the residence, tending to bonsai and arranging the flower garden. I do not know what bewitched eldest sister, but she accepted the handkerchief he gave her, embroidered with 4 characters meaning, "tied hair, same heart," and kept it with her without ever parting from it. From then on, she often used the excuse of taking me to fly kites in the back garden. Whenever the kite flew up, she would claim she was tired to let me play alone, while she quietly went to the little pavilion in the northwest. That day the garden was unusually quiet. I was reeling in the kite string when I suddenly saw a figure in celadon silk behind the Taihu rock. My father, unbeknownst to me, had been standing there for some time, his face gloomy as cold iron, with no attendants or guests by his side as usual. Steward Hai and 2 pages stood 3 steps away, bowing their heads in silence. The spool in my hand fell to the ground with a thud, and father's gaze swept over me, cold as a blade. I lowered my head but still saw through the bamboo blinds of the little pavilion the silhouette of eldest sister, and that scholar holding hands, looking at each other lovingly. Wisteria flowers fell continuously. A few petals landed by father's black boots, and were crushed into the mud by him. When scholar Timothy Chen was dragged out, his face was as pale as a corpse. Eldest sister still stood with her back straight, opposing father for the first time in her life, her voice trembling but firm. "Daughter does not want to be a bird in a gilded cage. I would rather be a pair of poor birds flying together across the sky." Father laughed coldly, angry but not showing it, and simply said, "Do you think there is any place in this world that escapes power? If you are no longer the Prime Minister's precious daughter, tomorrow you will understand. True love unprotected by power is no different from a fish on a chopping block." Eldest sister intended to speak further, but father waved his hand decisively. "Then let the world teach you a lesson on my behalf." That night, she was bound hand and foot, stuffed into a green curtained sedan chair, and sent away to a remote farm. Mother summoned the remaining 4 sisters before her, holding golden scissors to prune the begonia branches, her voice leisurely but cold. "Do you know why daughters of noble families must learn the arts? It is not to show off elegance, but to understand that what is called elegance that moves people's hearts often conceals the most cruel choices. Daughters of the Prime Minister's residence can speak of affection, but only within the phoenix, embroidered curtains of a suitable match. Do you remember this well? We kowtowed in unison and replied, yes. Less than a month later, eldest sister sent a letter home. The paper was soaked with tears, and every word was trembling with regret. Mother read it and silently threw it into the incense burner. The flames licked up, turning the letter into ash, carried by the wind like black butterflies dissolving into the void. Just then, second sister presented a newly finished embroidered handkerchief. Mother reached out to take it, her eyes gentle but deep, and said softly as if unintentionally, next year you should also begin matchmaking. Have you set your sights on any young master yet? Second sister nestled into her embrace, her voice sweet as silk, coquettishly replying, although I am foolish, I still remember the words in the lessons for women, to remain peaceful and quiet, keeping a heart that is proper. Marriage is a major matter that must naturally be decided by parents. I only wish to stay by father and mother's side for a few more years to repay your kindness. Although second sister was not as radiant as eldest sister, her eyes were lively, her words soft. She knew when to advance and when to retreat, skillful enough to please everyone. Hearing this, a flash of satisfaction crossed mother's eyes, and she smiled softly, hugging her. In 3 days, the residence of the Prince of Han will hold a flower banquet. You will accompany me. I understood that this was not merely an instruction, but the beginning of a transaction that did not need to be spoken aloud, a tacit rule among the great clans. Every word and gesture carried deep meaning, and even motherly love had to be measured by benefits. That autumn, eldest sister was welcomed back to the residence. The hydrangea of Chang, that was once radiantly city, toppling was now just skin and bones, so frail that a light breeze could blow her away. She knelt on the white jade tiles, kowtowing repeatedly, her forehead stained with ash without realizing it. Father sat on the grand preceptor chair, the hands that once held a pointer smiling while watching his children learn to write, now only silently rotated the rim of his teacup, his eyes dark and ripless. By the 8th kowtow, second sister finally stepped forward, gently helping her up, her voice light as smoke. Father, all mistakes are due to that scholar named Chen. Eldest sister has realized her error. Please open your heart in mercy. Saying so, she used her handkerchief to wipe the dirt from eldest sister's forehead and smiled. She is too honest. If a scar is left, it will not only ruin her beauty but also make outsiders think our residence mistreats its daughters. That single sentence caused my parents' expressions to immediately darken. Seizing the moment, eldest sister grabbed her hand, tears welling up. I promise, from now on I will be of one heart with you, devoting myself to serving father and mother. Since then, although she returned to her chambers, she never regained father's favor. The more she was given the cold shoulder, the harder she studied, practicing calligraphy in the early morning, reviewing account books at noon, and dancing with a sword under the moon at night. Whenever she went out, the young lords of Chang'an threw fruits into her carriage, just to catch a glimpse of her face. When mother attended banquets, both sisters always attended. One was glamorously city toppling, the other was sharp and skillful. One glance was enough to compose a poem. 3 words could resolve a difficult situation. I gradually realized that every time the two stood side by side, a soft but deep hidden dagger always lurked in their meeting gazes. That 12th lunar month, the palace held a plum blossom banquet, and my parents took both sisters into the palace. When the melody of White Feather's garment played, eldest sister waved her silk sleeves, dancing like flying clouds and rolling thunder, her steps like falling moonlight, making the entire hall fall silent, and even the emperor forgot to raise his cup. The emperor fingered his jade ring, pondered, and then laughed. Minister Kong has taught his daughter well, making the princesses in the palace seem ordinary. Father immediately left his seat and knelt down. Your subject is truly terrified. The princess is the bright moon in the sky. My daughter is just a firefly in the grass. How dare she compete with the moon for brightness? The emperor was pleased, bestowed fine wine, and asked, "What is your name?" Eldest sister bowed her head. This subject's name is Vanessa Kong. The name sounds too rigid. The emperor laughed. I see you dance as gracefully as a bird. Why not name you Fei? Do you like it? 3 days later, the imperial decree conferring the title of imperial concubine arrived at the prime minister's residence. Eldest sister knelt to receive the decree, her voice of gratitude light as a warbler's song, shy yet dignified. I stood behind, watching the whisk in the eunuch's hand disappear behind the door, suddenly remembering that year under the wisteria trellis in the northwest. Back then she also knelt with her back straight like that, only that kneeling buried a maiden's spring dream, while this kneeling opened a path of boundless glory. Second sister stepped forward, bowing to pay respects. Congratulations. Elder sister, on receiving the emperor's favor, this is an honor for the entire Kong family. Eldest sister smiled, but a trace of ice lingered in her eyes. Second sister has been overly solicitous lately, you should also be careful. Too much cleverness leads to foolishness. Second sister was not angry at all. She just gently tucked a lock of hair for her, smiling softly as silk. Sister is joking again. In the future I will still need to rely on your protection. Hidden in that smile was a hint of triumph, as if victory was already grasped. Because among the two legitimate daughters of the Kong clan, one must enter the palace. A gentleman always calculates actions from the root. Second sister believed in father's chess game. One enters the palace as a consort to be close to the dragon countenance, the other marries a prince to pave the future. No matter how the situation changes, the Kong clan remains standing. The emperor was in his 30s, robust but nearing 40. A daughter entering the palace could only be a consort, so she aimed for the position of a prince's principal wife. The night before eldest sister entered the palace, father led the entire main branch of the Kong family into the ancestral hall, burning incense to pray to the ancestors, the flickering candlelight reflecting on his solemn face. 3 bows and 9 kowtows, father knelt solemnly. Eldest sister intended to help him up, but he gritted out, ritual cannot be abandoned. That kowtow was both to thank the ancestors and to remind her that from now on, family affection must yield to power. Near the hour of the tiger, mother personally combed eldest sister's hair and applied lipstick, her fingers trembling slightly in the flickering oil lamp light. 10,000 taels of silver were divided into 12 envelopes. The largest bill was hidden in a brocade pouch carried close to her body, while fragmented silver was skillfully sewn into the hems of the maids' handkerchiefs. Father presented a rosewood box containing a pair of white goat, fat jade seals, bright as snow. 86 underground bases in the palace will adhere to your highness's command from now on. Eldest brother stepped forward to present a calling card. This female physician is proficient in gynecological diseases and is already listed in the Imperial Academy of Medicine's registry. Second brother followed, presenting land deeds. The 3 most prosperous streets in Chang'an are at your highness's disposal. Although third sister Beatrice Kong and I had not yet reached marriageable age, we also prepared jade pendants and scented pouches worn on our persons. The jade was warm jade, and the pouches were sewn with rare calming medicinal herbs inside. The last person to step up was second sister. She held up a cloak embroidered with golden thread in the shape of a peacock. The feathers glowed like fire under the flickering candle, every stitch hiding a layer of emotion. I am clumsy, I only hope you will wear this. Resembling a phoenix spreading its wings, the feathered garment soared. Her voice trembled slightly, and a tear rolled down, falling right into the peacock's eye. I remember when we were small learning to embroider plum blossoms. I was clumsy and could never do it. It was you who held my hand and taught me every stitch. The smile on eldest sister's lips froze, and in the depths of her eyes was the pain of being plotted against by a loved one. Yet there was a faint warmth when she saw the faint scar on second sister's arm. A mark from when she blocked lamp oil to save eldest sister during the lantern festival years ago. Struggles in the backyard never needed words, let alone blood. Everything happened silently like mist. At that very moment, I understood. Every golden thread on the peacock cloak was a piece of unnamed emotion, 7 parts true affection, 3 parts calculation, interwoven and inseparable. Just like that year under the wisteria trellis, the person who pushed her into the abyss was her, but she was also the one who hid behind the artificial mountain crying until her sleeves were wet. Less than a year after eldest sister entered the palace, second sister's marriage was also decided. When the scent of cinnamon spread across the courtyard, mother held her hand, speaking gently. Although the Feng family is not illustrious, they are a legitimate line of meritorious service, with a clean family reputation. Surely they will not mistreat you. The title of cavalry commandant sounded noble, but in reality, it was just an empty name. Second sister's usual smile disappeared, her expression faded, and she asked in a lost voice, "Is this the will of Her Highness?" Hearing this, mother's face turned slightly cold. Her Highness serves the emperor in the palace. How can she interfere with trivial matters at home? Second sister bit her lip, her voice choking. So father changed the plan. What about the prince? Mother's eyes flashed with a cold light. What does it have to do with the prince? The Kong family already has a consort in the palace. Naturally, we must avoid gossip. Second sister's face went pale. finally understanding the deep meaning in father's move. Balance in the court was not about pleasing both sides, but when the situation was uneven, one had to choose a single side and bet everything. Even if the Prince of Key was favored, he was just a pawn sitting beneath the dragon throne. A truly wise person would forever only bet on the side certain to win. This move was precisely to let the emperor clearly see that a daughter of the Kong family would rather lower her status to marry an empty title than get involved in the struggle for the crown prince position. Second sister was still unreconciled, asking in a trembling voice. If he decided to be loyal to the emperor, why does father still associate with the Prince of Key's residence? Mother leisurely rotated the mutton, fat jade bracelet on her wrist, her voice mild but cold. Silly child, attending flower viewing banquets is just normal social intercourse. The Prince of Key holds a banquet, and the entire court of civil and military officials attends. If the Kong residence does not go, it becomes an eyesore to others. Before that almost public hint, second sister suddenly woke up. It turned out that years ago, when father told mother to urgently educate eldest sister, it was merely a trap to see who was the daughter with enough quality to enter the palace. He wanted to see who could keep their heart amidst the temptation of power, and who could hide their wisdom behind a smile. Eldest sister's infatuation and second sister's calculations were all seen through by the experienced eyes of a man in the officialdom. Since when? Eldest sister lost her virtue. If entering the palace, the one chosen should have been me. Second sister choked. Mother raised her teacup, took a sip, and then slowly said, "There are 3 types of intelligence in the world. The lowest is calculating everything. The middle is knowing how to hide talent and wait for the right time. And the highest is making the world think you are not intelligent at all." Second sister's whole body trembled slightly. I hurriedly stepped forward to support her, pressing my finger lightly on her wrist, whispering, "Sister is just confused due to emotion, hurry and give thanks." She looked at me deeply, her eyes both resentful and despairing. She understood that father had long seen through her nature, intelligent but too exposed. If she entered the palace, she would surely harm herself. While eldest sister, seemingly gentle and naive, was the one who understood the situation better than anyone. What father and the emperor needed was never the most excellent person, but the most suitable pawn. After everyone withdrew, mother gently held me back. She raised the celadon porcelain cup from the yew kiln, tea smoke curling in the air, her eyes gentle yet profound. "Do you find mother too cruel?" I lowered my head to look at the silver vine embroidery on my skirt hem, and after a while, I looked up out the window. Where the purple peony bush had been carefully pruned, everything in the world had to pay a price. Even a beautiful peony, without the pruning hand of a gardener, was just a weed by the roadside. Mother nodded slightly, her eyes filled with satisfaction. "Correct, although you are young your mind is clear, that is your superiority." She paused for a moment, her voice suddenly lowering, carrying a chill in the cool air. "It is just that, as a girl, you are ultimately a bit too cold." Outside the window, a strong wind blew past, sweeping peony petals down to scatter, tapping lightly against the curtains, making soft sounds. I suddenly remembered that spring, when I saw with my own eyes second sister's maid leading scholar Timothy Chen through the corridor. Eldest sister's kite string got caught on a flower branch and was picked up by him, reciting eldest sister's favorite poem as he walked. I closed my book and saw second sister hiding behind the artificial mountain, clutching a white handkerchief so tightly her fingers turned white. Her calculation was merely to make father disappointed in eldest sister, thereby seizing the opportunity to enter the game. I saw through it but did not expose it. If not for the fear that eldest sister would truly fall, the sentence, "Lately eldest sister is free and often takes me to fly kites," that I blurted out during that meal would not have existed. From the moment I understood the game, I placed myself in the position of an outsider, interfering with no one. It is just that at this moment, I can no longer distinguish whether my unintentional words, that spring, were the cause of the exposure, or if my parents already knew everything, and were just silently observing from afar. Mother smiled, her eyes seeming to see through to the thoughts in my heart. "Your father often says that to win at chess, one must know how to sacrifice pieces to gain the initiative. Sometimes it seems like just a struggle for a step, but actually, it is for the killing move 10 steps later." She gently tucked a lock of hair behind my ear, her voice soft as water but deep as an abyss. "The light and dark reasoning of the world cannot be explained clearly in a few words. Seeing too clearly is not necessarily a blessing. How could I not understand? It is just that this inner chamber cannot tolerate foolish people. Every step is a calculation. Sober to the point of coldness, that is the cruelest thing." Mother kept you back today, do you know why? Her voice slowed down as if intending to say something, then she sighed softly and hugged me. In the palm of my hand, she lightly wrote the character, Kong. Remember carefully. It is precisely because you are daughters of the Kong family that father puts his heart into planning so much. The scent of jasmine wafted from her, blending with her voice light as spring breeze. Among you children, you are the one most like father. Understand that the way of a noble family does not lie in temporary gain or loss, but in eternal inheritance. The evening drum sounded outside the veranda, birds chirped flying back to their nests, and the sunlight casting through the window grill printed long shadows on the brick floor. It was not until many years later, when I wore a red veil and followed the carriage to marry into B City, that I realized father's hand, holding the chess pieces of father, had long drawn the destiny for everyone in the house. As soon as second sister married, Consort Fei specially asked for a decree to bestow the title of lady upon her, both to save face for the Kong family and to ensure the Feng family, despite having only an empty title, did not appear too lowly. I looked at second sister in her crimson phoenix robe. The smile on her lips was perfect as if painted, but in her familiar almond eyes, a layer of cold mist shimmered deep within. In the battle between her and eldest sister, the loser was ultimately her. At first, my two elder brothers were still worried, sending trusted aides to the Feng residence every month to gather news, until they heard she had given birth to the eldest son. Only then did they truly feel at ease. As the years passed, the light in her eyes gradually faded, and the sharpness of the past was worn away. During the Dragon Boat Festival that year, she returned to the residence. I saw her wiping sweat for General Feng with her own hands, her gaze unexpectedly gentle. What surprised people even more was that she took the initiative to ask Mother to bring her into the palace next time to kowtow and thank Consort Fei. At that time, she was sewing a tiger head hat for her young child, her expression gentle, calm, and strangely soft. Hearing this, Mother only smiled slightly, a smile deep as if hiding the secrets of heaven. Mother and daughter looked at each other, understanding each other's hearts without needing words. I was unclear if second sister had truly let go, or just hidden the unreconciled feelings at the bottom of her heart, but that was no longer important. Because in a game of chess, a piece either settles in place or is eliminated, and she chose to settle. When I turned 13, I often accompanied third sister Beatrice Kong following Mother to attend banquets at various noble residences. I suddenly realized that third sister, who originally preferred quiet elegance and simplicity, had begun to adorn herself with more brilliance. White jade hairpins were changed to gold inlaid sets, pearl earrings were replaced with kingfisher feather inlaid pearls. At the Lotus Appreciation Banquet in midsummer, she even wore a pair of plum blossom hairpins in her hair, more radiant than the sun. Under the green willow shade, talented scholars from everywhere gathered. When playing the flying flower drinking game, Censor Mai of the Censorate composed a poem within 7 steps, causing everyone to marvel and praise him. I saw third sister's hand tremble slightly, although she tried to hide it. She could not cover the look of infatuation in the depths of her eyes, nor did she miss the burning gaze that Censor Mai silently cast upon her. In the carriage returning to the residence, Mother tapped her fingertips lightly on the window frame and asked leisurely, "Is that plum blossom hairpin newly made?" Third sister lowered her head and replied softly, the tips of her ears flushing pink. Mother frowned slightly, and that night she went to Father's study. Less than half a year later, Father arranged a marriage for third sister, betrothing her to the Pan family, a lineage of pure nobility. The current head of the family was a reader, in waiting at the Hanlin Academy, a family of rules and etiquette, worthy of being a sanctuary for a daughter of the Kong family. Mother held third sister's hand, pushing a pair of jadeite bracelets onto her wrist. The Pan family loves books the most and has a collection of 10,000 volumes, in the future wearing red sleeves while reading at night. Is that not very elegant? Third sister knelt on the jade tiles, forehead touching the ground, the silver plum blossom hairpin in her hair trembling slightly. When she stood up, her body swayed, and as I stepped forward to support her, I felt her fingertips digging into her flesh until it broke skin. Mother took a pair of brand new gold phoenix hairpins from her dressing box, replacing the plum blossom hairpin on third sister's hair. "This hairpin is old, it should be changed." Third sister lowered her eyes, watching Mother bestow that hairpin to a servant. Facing the admonition, third sister softly agreed. When she turned to leave, her skirt caught on the threshold, and she nearly fell. The wedding date was set for autumn of the following year, but third sister remained ill for 2 whole seasons. In the silent snow pavilion, the smell of medicine lingered without dispersing, Precious medicinal ingredients were poured in like water, yet they could not dissolve the sorrow between her brows. When I went to pay respects, Mother was looking at the parasol tree leaves falling outside the window, her voice carrying a rare fatigue. Go and persuade Beatrice. If it really does not work, then send her to the West Suburb villa to recuperate. I saw reluctance in Mother's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by determination. That was the last bit of mercy from a mother, and also the final test. I did not let the maid announce me, going to Third Sister's silent snow pavilion myself. Pushing the door open, Third Sister wore a pale outer coat, staring blankly at a painting in front of her. In the painting was a scene of green willows in mist, a person wearing green standing against the wind. Although only a view of his back, it exuded an aura of nobility difficult to conceal. It is Chief Censor Mai who composed poetry by the Ku River that day. Third Sister, I called out softly. She hurriedly put away the painting, her pale face revealing a flash of panic. I looked at that gaunt appearance, unable to bear saying it. Continuing to be sick like this, harming your body will not easily heal. Third Sister suddenly laughed, like ice shattering on a jade tray. In the eyes of those people, missing the wedding date is the greatest crime, she said. Those people naturally refer to father and mother. I did not reply, only saying, I heard Lord Mai will soon marry Princess and Li. The painting scroll fell to the floor with a thud. Third Sister forced a cold smile. What do court affairs have to do with a maiden in the inner chambers? I picked up the painting scroll. Third Sister, do you know why father did not marry you to the Mai family? It is merely because he despises the Mai family's humble origin, unworthy of the Prime Minister's precious daughter. We daughters are merely goods waiting to be priced. It is the same no matter who we marry. Third Sister raised her head, resembling a righteous scholar in history books, ready to sacrifice for the way. You go back and report. If I live until the wedding day, naturally I will not disgrace the Kong family gate. I sighed softly. Sister is wrong. It is precisely because father knows clearly that Chief Censor Mai is a pillar of the state that he cannot form a marriage alliance. Lord Mai holds a position in the censorate, while father is the prime minister. If he allies with someone close to the emperor, what will the Son of Heaven think? The imperial concubine just gave birth to a little prince. There are so many eyes staring at the Kong family. If we take one wrong step, it is eternal damnation. Third Sister suddenly coughed violently. You people cough only have calculations in your eyes. Is there any room left for true feelings? Calculations. I laughed coldly. Do you think father's position as prime minister was obtained by bowing and scraping? Last year the Yellow River dikes broke. Father donated half the family fortune for relief. Early this spring during the northern frontier drought, father persevered alone, exhausting his efforts to open the granaries to distribute grain. I stepped closer to her. If he was not good at calculating, the citizens of the flooded region would have turned into starving corpses. If he did not know how to weigh pros and cons, then your death today would already be the 370 lives of the Kong family. Tears fell from Third Sister's eyes like broken pearls, and she choked out. If heaven gave me a choice again, I would rather discard high nobility and wealth to be a woman in coarse clothes and bare feet, eating vegetables and drinking water with the person I love, living a simple life until the end. Hearing this, I laughed coldly, my voice unconsciously rising. The life of coarse clothes that Third Sister speaks of, is it wanting to be a market wife, arguing red-faced all day over 3 copper coins, or being a peasant woman who encounters a drought, and can only watch helplessly as her child starves to death, the ginseng soup you drink every day, the snow swallow's nest you use, which item is not preserved glory thanks to father's calculations? Without those calculations, I fear you would not even have vegetable porridge to pass the days. Third Sister staggered back, leaning against the cold wall. I reached out to wipe her tears, only to discover my own eyelashes were also soaked. Sister and I were born bearing the mark of the Kong family. Our feelings, even our lives, compared to the more than 300 lives of the Kong family, are lighter than a goose feather. Third Sister slowly slid to the floor, the jade hairpin falling from her hair, hitting the blue tiles with a crisp sound. I bent down and gently embraced her trembling shoulders. We held each other and wept. But in our hearts, it was clear, this sorrow was for a fate arranged early on, and also because we were still grateful to be born in luxury. The knot in her heart was untied. Third Sister's body became healthier day by day. On the day she left the pavilion, the 10 miles of red dowry made all of Chang'an sigh in admiration. Although the Pan family had strict rules, young Master Pan was a considerate person. Even though Third Sister gave birth to 2 daughters, he steadfastly refused to take a concubine. Since then, in Chang'an, To take a wife one must take a daughter of the Kong family, became a catchphrase among the young masters of noble families. Even maids from the Kong residence were valued more highly than young ladies of ordinary official families when discussing marriage. Mother taught me increasingly strictly, gradually handing over the management of the residence for me to handle. That day, news of the passing of the Grand Consort of Nannan arrived, so Mother immediately used the matter to test me. Now that the Grand Consort worshipped Buddha before her death, why not send a set of hand-copied Buddhist scriptures on Nanmu wood inlaid with gold thread? Would that not be complete? I shook my head. The Grand Consort followed her husband to fight on the battlefield in her youth. She inherently detested frivolous rituals. Instead of that, it is better to offer a set of cleaned armor and weapons, placed before her spirit seat, which is even more respectful. A look of appreciation flashed through Mother's eyes. Then she asked again. Next month, Minister Li's precious daughter is marrying far away to Huizhou. Is there a need to ask Her Highness the Imperial Concubine to grant some rewards for face? I pursued my lips and did not answer, only signaling Lily with my eyes. The girl immediately understood, bowing to say, "This servant has a humble opinion. If Her Highness rewards too generously, I fear it will cause people to gossip. It is better to let Madam personally gift a pair of dowry chests and jewelry, not exceeding protocol yet sufficient in face." Mother clapped her hands and laughed loudly. "Very good, the master understands reason. The servant knows her place. That is the demeanor of a great family. What reward does this girl want?" Lily bowed her head humbly. "This servant only revolves around serving the young miss, imbued with her teachings. How would I dare to hope for a reward?" Mother rotated the jade bracelet on her wrist, casually pulling out a hairpin to grant to Lily. "You know how to keep within bounds very well. In the future you will surely have good fortune." It was not until 3 months later, when eldest brother married Lily to a merchant in Jingzhou, that I understood the deep meaning in Mother's words earlier. Being the principal wife of a wealthy merchant, was that not good fortune? Still much better than a life as a servant. The day she came to bid farewell, her expression was still calm, showing no joy at the prospect of changing her life to become a mistress. I intentionally asked, "How many years have you served me?" She bowed slightly and replied, answering, "Young miss, from the day I cried entering the world, this servant has been by your side serving. Calculating until now it has been 14 years and months." I leaned back in the chair, looking at her respectful appearance, and raised my voice. "The Wen family has sent people to propose marriage, and elder brother has agreed. From now on you are the mistress of the Wen family. There is no need to perform grand ceremonies anymore." Hearing this, she immediately prostrated on the ground, earnestly begging, "This servant has served the young miss for so many years. How would I dare to hope to climb high? Please, young miss, withdraw your goodwill. Allow this servant to continue staying by your side." "You are confused. Is being a young mistress not better than being a maid? When the time comes, there will naturally be people serving you." She kowtowed continuously, the silver hairpin in her hair hitting the brick floor, ringing clearly. "Young miss treats this servant generously. Food and clothing are no less than a girl from a good family. Telling this servant to leave young miss to go serve those vulgar men. I would rather cut my hair and become a nun." Her forehead touched the jade floor, making hollow thudding sounds. You are one who understands the times." I gently reached out to help her up. "What does that mean?" I once caught a glimpse of that gentleman named Wen behind a screen. His appearance is dignified, and his father has served my father for many years. In my opinion, you two are a good match. Lily was a bondservant born in the residence. Her parents were both stewards in the Kong residence. She followed me since childhood, working satisfactorily and diligently. I roughly understood elder brother's intention. Marriage alliances formed a net. The thicker and stronger it was, the more solid the Kong family business became. Since she was so loyal, I was also willing to give her some face. After reporting to Mother, I accepted her as an adopted sister, and selected a pair of jewelry sets from my own dowry chests to give her as a dowry. On the day she left the pavilion, I personally saw her off at the side door, watching her wearing a phoenix crown and a red cape, stepping into the bridal sedan chair. Suddenly I remembered the year she was 8, slipping and falling into the lake to pick a twin lotus flower. She held the lotus high above her head, her face drenched in water but still smiling radiantly. "Young miss, this year brings the first twin lotus. This servant picked it for you." In this world of red dust, daughters ultimately cannot escape the fate of marrying and following their husbands. Now, that lotus flower finally has to be transplanted to another family's pond. When I turned 18, my marriage was also decided. Contrary to everyone's expectations, father married me to the Marquis residence of the Shu family, stationed in the remote land of B City. A declining Marquis, in the eyes of the noble families of Chang'an, was no different from a lowly humble family. When my 3 elder sisters married, it was mother who relayed the message. This time, it was father who personally called me into the study. In the study, he was lost in thought looking at a painting that had not yet been touched by ink. I stood waiting silently. It was not until half a moment later that father turned his head. Among my daughters, only your temperament is most like mine. I bowed my hands and did not answer, letting his scrutinizing gaze rest upon me. After a while, he shook his head slightly, his voice like a soft sigh. If only you were a male, you would surely have an illustrious career. I raised my eyes to look at the blank painting. Although daughters are bound within the inner chambers, we also understand that a broad heart is not confined within inches. Father's eyes flashed, and he suddenly laughed loudly. Ha, truly my daughter. His laughter gradually faded, and his words became heavy. B City is far away, it cannot compare to the glory of Chang'an. If you do not want to go, do not. I cut off his words. Having enjoyed the glory and salary of the Kong clan, a daughter must also shoulder responsibility for the family. Father sighed, stroking the jade ring on his thumb, slowly speaking of his hidden troubles. This year the emperor wants to prune the branches and leaves of the noble families, so father has no choice but to cut off a branch himself first. He closed his eyes, his voice mixed with a rare fatigue. I have stood in the court for 30 years, I understand best the principle that when the birds are gone, the good bow is hidden. He opened his eyes to look at me. Do you understand? A tremor moved slightly in my heart. Suddenly I remembered 5 years ago, mother once talked to me but stopped before finishing. Perhaps since then, father had intended to marry me far away to the provinces. Bay City, although a remote region, is the throat of the grain transport route. The Marquis residence of the Su family commands 5,000 elite troops, not too prominent, but in times of need, they can be of heavy use. If in the future the imperial concubine's son wants to contend, that Marquis residence will surely be a solid backing. This heart, if not personally explained today, I fear I would never have understood. Leaving the study, I went to mother's courtyard. She was meticulously reviewing the dowry list. Seeing me enter, her face, usually dignified and calm, revealed a few parts of sorrow. Waiting for you to leave the pavilion, this courtyard will truly be empty. The jadeite bracelet on her wrist knocked lightly against the table, making a crisp clinking sound. The night before Consort Fei entered the palace, your father stood the entire midnight in the ancestral hall. The day Helena returned to visit, he broke his rule and drank until drunk. The day Beatrice was critically ill, he provided relief during the day, and at night personally tested medicine and changed prescriptions. Do you know? For those children from humble families in the 9 provinces, he ordered people to investigate 3 generations before selecting Marquis Julian Su. Mother's voice was still solemn as usual, but it contained a trace of choking difficult to detect. Do not blame your father, he has calculated with all his heart and effort for you children. I reached out to hug mother like a small child held in her arms, gently comforting her. Daughter understands everything. Mother leaned lightly on my shoulder, the sobbing sound becoming clear. You are all my flesh and blood. For one to suffer is like someone carving my heart with a knife. At that moment, she was no longer the titled lady and mistress of the Prime Minister's residence high above, just a mother about to send her child far away. Not long after, she gently pushed me away, restoring her usual dignified appearance. In the chess game of prestigious noble families, even family affection had to be hidden away like this. In the future, I would also become a person like her, measuring even sorrow correctly. The wedding date was set for April of the following year, right at the time when peonies were in full bloom. The Marquis residents of the Shu family came personally to Chang'an to propose, with complete etiquette, showing wholehearted sincerity. I finally could not suppress my curiosity, using the excuse of serving tea to secretly look at my future husband from behind the screen. In the flower hall, I only saw a figure in dark blue brocade sitting quietly and upright, slender fingers tapping lightly on the rim of the teacup. His voice rang out clear as jade colliding. Just the view of his back was enough to lower my heart, which had been hanging high, by a few parts. I's 4th sister satisfied. 2nd brother did not know when he had stood behind me, waving his fan and tapping my shoulder lightly. I hurriedly lowered my head, only feeling my ears burning hot. Ultimately, I was also a maiden of the boudoir. Although I understood marriage was a major matter of the family, my heart could not help but desire a husband like Jade. The betrothal gifts from the Shu family arrived in pairs, filling the front courtyard. The vermilion lacquered chests shone under the sunlight, emitting a warm glow. The steward held the gold-plated list, chanting loudly. As soon as each item was named, servants immediately opened it for inspection. 2 boxes of 100-year-old red ginseng from B City region, 10 caddies of snow clam, a pair of jade ri carved from Qingshan stone. Although not items currently fashionable in Chang'an, every piece was simple yet full of meaning. Lucy leaned close to my ear and whispered. This servant heard that young Master Julian's mother is not good at kitchen matters. Surely this time she has brought out all the delicacies from the bottom of her chests. I nodded slightly, acknowledging the heart, my hand skimming over the layer of somewhat old flowered brocade. I understood clearly that these gifts were the utmost sincerity of the Su family. Gifts are not valued by price but treasured for the true heart. After all, in terms of wealth, who in the world could compare with the Kong family? My dowry was also selected carefully. I only chose 2 or 3 representative items from the imperial concubine's royal bestowals, both maintaining the Kong family's face without being overly ostentatious. After Lily married, only Lucy remained by my side as a close maid. I promoted May to be a maid of equal rank, accompanying me to my husband's home. 3 days before leaving the pavilion, I summoned the 36 servants accompanying the dowry to the flower hall. The crowd bowed their heads in silence. May and Lucy stood on my left and right, holding their heads high. I leisurely swept my eyes over each person. There was Nanny Lee managing the kitchen, A Guy managing outside miscellaneous tasks. From the moment we stepped foot in B City, they would be my most capable right-hand men. I clapped my hands once, and servants immediately brought in silver trays one by one. I raised my hand to adjust my hair, and Lucy stepped forward. Fourth Miss pities us. Aside from the public fund reward, each person is rewarded an additional 100 taels of private silver. When calling someone's name, I personally placed the silver into their hands. Nanny Lee, your grandson has been arranged into the Kong family school. If he becomes a person of worth in the future, he will certainly not be mistreated. Agui, yesterday the imperial physician prescribed medicine for your mother. Whatever medicine is needed, I only hope she recovers soon. Everyone received the silver in turn. Kneeling down to perform the grand ceremony, I held a handkerchief and smiled, becoming even more gentle. You are all people from the Prime Minister's residence. You must know what should be done and what should not. If done well, there will certainly be future blessings. If not, I do not lack methods to arrange things. The words were not yet finished, but everyone felt a chill down their spines. Teaching people is like taming horses. Granting favors must be measured. Too much is compulsion, too little is disdain. One must give sweetness while holding the reins tight. I looked with satisfaction at their expressions of mixed awe and fear, knowing clearly that grace and power walking together had achieved the effect. Outside the window, it was late afternoon, the setting sun stretching people's shadows into a long strip. From this moment on, the fate and future of these people were tightly bound to my future. On the day of my departure, the emperor specially dispatched imperial guards to escort me along the way, and nobles from all over the city came uninvited. I understood clearly that this was the Son of Heaven sending a warning to the prestigious noble families. Those who understand the times will surely have a future of silk and brocade. Father wore a purple robe and a jade belt, standing majestically on the steps, still the current Prime Minister, whose name shakes the world. It was only when I served tea that I saw the hands beneath those sleeves trembling slightly. Mother pinned a 9-phoenix hairpin on me, but it took 3 tries for her gold-plated nail guards to fix the hair bun. Second sister immediately supported Mother's hand. Third sister silently handed over a handkerchief. 3 hands met before the mirror. No one spoke a word, but everyone understood. In the main hall, I bowed my head onto the back of eldest brother, his back broad and thick as a cliff. Before the red curtain fell, I looked back one last time at the plaque bearing the surname Kong hanging above the door. I saw father standing by the opposite pillar, the morning light shining obliquely, dividing his figure into half light and half shadow. Suddenly remembering all these years, second sister's vicious calculations, third sister decisively smashing the medicine bowl, father with a cold face pushing eldest sister away, mother firmly wanting to send third sister to the villa. Beneath the appearance of constant struggle, bloodline remains a bond that cannot be cut, broken. Raise the sedan chair. Following the long chant of the ceremonial officer, the bridal sedan was lifted steadily. From this moment, the daughter of the Kong family became the new bride of the Shu family. The chess game of my life had just made its move, from Chang'an to Bai City, a journey of more than a month, the first half by official road, the second half by water route, hardships layer upon layer. As soon as we arrived at the dock, I saw more than 10 large and small flower boats of the Sioux family waiting to welcome us. The first one was draped in pink and hung with red, every boat carved with the character for happiness in bright gold, dazzling the eyes. I had grown up in the inner chambers since childhood, and had never suffered such hardship. Just half a day on the boat and I was dizzy, the world spinning upside down. Arriving in the waters of B City, I had lost quite a bit of weight. The wedding dress that originally fit well was now 2 fingers too wide. About to disembark, Lucy helped me touch up my makeup once more. Just as I put the red veil back on, the sound of joyous music rang out from the shore. I was just about to step onto the sedan chair when an old woman stepped forward to stop me. "Madam, please stop. According to B City custom, the bride is an outsider entering the house and must step over a red charcoal brazier to drive away evil and remove bad luck." Under the red veil, I saw the charcoal brazier at her feet burning red hot, with a pair of iron scissors stuck inside. What were the bystanders whispering about? Although I could not see the old woman's face clearly, I knew in my heart this was not a good omen. Clearly, they wanted to display power to intimidate me from the start. I stopped Lucy, who wanted to argue back, smiling and replying softly, "So that is the custom." I gently lifted my skirt, stepping over unhurriedly. The tongues of fire licked the hem of my dress, and the string of pearls on the skirt immediately lost its sparkling luster. The bridal sedan passed through the main street, with the band playing joyous tunes in front and commoners on both sides of the road scrambling to pick up lucky money, their mouths ceaseless with blessings. More than half an hour passed, and the bridal sedan finally stopped. The set-in curtain was lifted, and a pair of slender hands reached out to support me. "Madam has worked hard traveling a long way." That gentle and warm voice belonged to Marquis Julian. I reached out, letting him lead me step by step into the main hall. The wedding curtains hung low. He and I stood side by side, performing the ceremony of 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows following the ceremonial officer's chant. In the wedding chamber, I waited until the 3rd watch when footsteps finally came from outside. The scent of incense mixed with faint alcohol wafted into the bridal room. Julian's voice was husky, mixed with a bit of intoxication, saying he made Madam wait long. Just as the jade Rui lifted the red veil, the wedding candle suddenly popped a flower of sparks. Striking my eyes was a pair of drunken eyes beneath sword-like brows, deep as the starry sky. "Marquis," I called out softly, lowering my eyes, the tips of my ears turning red. He was momentarily stunned, then suddenly leaned close, his breath carrying the scent of wine lightly brushing my ear. "When at home, Madam can just call me Julian." Suddenly the sound of children playing rang out outside the window. Julian looked out the window grill, laughing with a bit of helplessness, saying the customs of Bi-City are simple and honest, making Madam laugh. Just as the nuptial wine flowed down my throat, the red candle popped a spark again, echoing with a crisp sound in the quiet bridal room. The ceremony was complete. The servants in the room withdrew one by one. I let Julian remove the last gold hairpin from my hair, letting it cascade down, his fingers naturally sliding into the stream of soft hair. I felt his burning palm press against the back of my neck, scorching like fire. Unknown when, the red curtains had been lowered, enveloping the two of us in an ambiguous darkness. The sound of the water clock echoed from afar, unable to cover the increasingly rapid breathing of 2 people. The children eavesdropping outside the door had long dispersed, leaving only the pair of dragon and phoenix candles silently burning red. When the morning light just faintly shone, I struggled against the soreness all over my body to sit up. Julian gently supported me, his warm breath against my ear, saying, "Last night your husband was rough and made Madam tired." I lightly pinched his palm with my fingertips to playfully scold him, intending to stand up, but was held tight in his arms. "Mother pities you for traveling a long way. She specially allowed you to wait until tomorrow to pay respects." My heart sank involuntarily. A principal wife must perform the tea ceremony the next morning. Only remarried concubines are delayed for 3 days. Yesterday, as soon as I disembarked, they set up a charcoal brazier. Today they intentionally prolonged the rituals. The intention of the Xu family was clear as day. Mother's compassion is this concubine's blessing. I smiled gently, withdrawing my hand from his embrace. When I was at home, Mother often taught that a new bride needs to be diligent to be worthy of the family style. Every day precisely at the 3rd quarter of the hour of the rabbit, when the begonia flowers in the courtyard still held morning dew, we sisters were already waiting under the corridor. Hearing this, Julian's arm holding me paused slightly. He thought he didn't show it, but I saw it all. He intended to say something else, but I had already quickly called the maid. saying today we are free. I wonder if husband can accompany me for a walk around the garden. The hesitation that flashed through his eyes could not escape my gaze. I laughed coldly in my heart. It turned out that so-called thoughtfulness was just a play performed together with Lady Shu. If I really slept in today and did not get up, tomorrow rumors of the new bride being arrogant and relying on favor would surely spread throughout the residence. I looked into the bronze mirror, a dignified and demure smile clearly visible in the depths of my eyes. 18 years immersed in the inner courtyard of the Kong residence had long taught me how to use softness to conquer hardness, using gentleness to mask storms. The sweet thoughts under the red candle last night had now turned to ash falling with the candle wick, leaving not a trace behind. After finishing my makeup, I intentionally walked slowly, leaning lightly on Julian's arm to stride gracefully. That day, I made him lead me around the entire Marquis residence so that everyone could see the new bride in high spirits with radiant eyes. When we reached the east courtyard where Lady Shu resided, I tentatively asked, since we were in front of Mother's courtyard, should we go in to pay respects. Julian said, "Mother is worshipping Buddha. It is inconvenient to meet outsiders." I nodded slightly, not forcing it. Tomorrow, if anyone claims I was lazy and refused to visit the elders, the maids and old women of the entire residence today could all bear witness. That night, Julian was particularly attentive and caring. I just smiled internally, fearing he wanted to drain my strength so I wouldn't wake early tomorrow, being just a moment late so others could find fault. Just as dawn broke, I forced my aching body to sit up from the bed. Julian pulled me back into his arms, intending to coax me to sleep a bit longer. I smiled and pushed him away, saying paying respects is important, husband should also get up quickly. Before the pear blossom mirror, I picked up the phoenix hairpin rewarded from the palace, fondling it in my hand. My jade bracelet hit the sandalwood vanity table, making two soft clicking sounds. In the bronze mirror, Lucy's eyes flashed. Her white hands quickly took the phoenix hairpin and inserted it into my hair. May arrived just in time with a dark purple cloud, patterned cloak fitting my intention perfectly. After tidying up properly, Julian held my hand as we walked through the corridor together, arriving at the flower hall in less than half an hour. In the flower hall, incense smoke curled in the air. Lady Shu sat high on the main seat, her hands rotating Buddhist beads rapidly, her eyes sharp as knives. On the right sat 4 or 5 men of the clan sitting upright. On the left were about 10 women secretly evaluating me. I did not glance sideways, walking in shoulder to shoulder with Julian. After the grand ceremony of 3 kneelings and 9 kowtows, the sound of Buddhist beads suddenly stopped, and only after a long while did I hear the call to rise. Indeed worthy of a prestigious general's family. Lady Shu's voice carried a suppressed coldness, as if insinuating that the clothes I wore today were overly magnificent. I curled my lips slightly, clapping my hands 3 times. The maids following me immediately presented trays of pure gold, entering in formation. Coral from the South Sea, glaze from the western regions, blue porcelain from the imperial kiln. Every item was a precious rarity hard to seek. The new daughter-in-law has prepared some toys fashionable in Chang'an, hoping the elders will not despise them. I only heard someone in the hall gasp cold air. These precious items rarely seen in Bai City were just toys in my mouth, as if the Marquis residence they considered high and noble was no different from a declining household compared to the Kong family. Lady Shu glanced over the trays, then immediately pivoted to the matter of my clothes. A new bride should wear red for the first 3 days of the wedding. Why are you wearing purple clothes? I feigned awkwardness, then bowed and said, "Please mother, examine clearly. Originally, this daughter-in-law prepared red clothes, but on the wedding day, when stepping over the brazier, unfortunately the gold thread phoenix image on the hem of the wedding dress, bestowed from the palace, was burned. Thinking it was an unlucky omen, this daughter-in-law dared to change the color of her attire on her own." Finishing these words, Lady Shu's face immediately turned pale, and her voice trembled. "You say the wedding dress was an item bestowed from the palace?" "Yes." I nodded. That wedding dress was specially crafted by 12 palace embroideresses under Her Highness, the imperial concubine's orders for half a year. Every South Sea pearl was selected by Her Highness's own hand. I intentionally paused for a moment to let the pressure spread throughout the great hall. Even the lining inside the dress was rare cloud, patterned brocade, of which Sichuan only weaves 1 roll every 3 years. With every word I spoke, Lady Shu's face turned a shade grayer, her hand gripping the Buddhist beads turning white from tightness. Clearly, she understood that this outfit was not just imperial grace, but also the face of Her Highness the imperial concubine. Now that the wedding dress was ruined, lightly put, the Su family was careless, Heavily put, it was disrespect to the imperial family. Sweat beaded on Julian's forehead. How could this be resolved satisfactorily? The Son of Heaven had just favored him because of the Kong family. If the big picture was ruined because of trivial matters in the inner courtyard spreading outside, everyone would think the Su family mistreated their daughter-in-law. Seeing Lady Shu's face gradually hardening, I knew it was enough and stopped, saying gently, "Letly, it has been busy, so this daughter-in-law has not yet had time to report this matter upwards. In my humble opinion, it is better to temporarily find a skilled seamstress in this city to patch it, and then apologize to Her Highness later. It is not too late." The tension on Lady Shu's face finally eased, and she took out a red envelope from a tray. "You came from afar, first rest for a few days. We can discuss the rules of the residence later." I respectfully received the red envelope with both hands but did not stand up immediately. Instead, I solemnly said, "Mother is compassionate. This daughter-in-law is extremely grateful. It is just that having married into the Shu family, I must follow the Su family rules. If I cause the family reputation to be slighted, it would betray the years of teaching from the Prime Minister's residence, but tolerating too much only makes people push their luck." This statement both saved face for Lady Su and blocked future gossip. If I followed her wish today to postpone establishing rules, in the future I would surely be labeled as ignorant of etiquette. The madam of the second branch spoke up at the right moment to mediate. "Nephew's wife, do not be so polite. The old madam is just hoping to hold a grandson soon. Although our place cannot compare to Chang'an, the seamstresses in the residence are not too bad." As soon as she spoke, several aunts clamored in agreement, dispelling the tense atmosphere just now, turning it into a scene of close and warm mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I lowered my eyes and smiled, using the excuse of performing ceremonies to observe everyone in the hall. The second madam had a sharp demeanor and keen eyes. The third madam looked honest and simple. Seeing the situation turn favorable, Lady Shu went with the flow and said, "You just arrived at your husband's home. Let Julian guide you to get acquainted for a few days." Julian seemed to be granted a great pardon, hurriedly leading me to greet the elders. The madams of the second and third branches were experienced people. Seeing the imperial bestowals, they praised them endlessly. I smiled and responded, finally overcoming that greeting session full of hidden storms. From then on, I woke up every day at the hour of the rabbit, and would go to the gate of the east courtyard to perform the full etiquette of reporting. Lady Shu used the excuse of weak health to avoid meeting, but I wanted the servants of the entire residence to see the new madam's discipline. Early morning before the dew dried, I was at the east courtyard. When the sun rose high, I went to the bamboo courtyard to help the second madam with account books. At noon, I went to the pine courtyard to join the third madam in preparing gifts for the New Year festival. Why does madam need to trouble herself so much? May could not help grumbling while massaging my sore shoulders. The old madam refuses to hand over kitchen authority, clearly intentionally making things difficult for you. Lucy also slipped up. I really cannot understand. The Prime Minister clearly selected carefully, yet the Su family behaves like this. It is really. Halfway through her sentence, Lucy startled and knelt down. I raised my hand to signal her to stand up. This girl had plenty of calmness, but was still not as sharp as Lily, failing to see the intention within. The so-called careful selection was actually a comprehensive review of the Shu family's capabilities. On the outside, Julian had his own skills, but when it came to the inner residence, he became a weak and indecisive person. He coveted the power brought by the Prime Minister's residence, yet feared that I, a high-born lady from Chang'an, would make him lose face before his rivals. As for Lady Su, that old madam who had occupied B City for years, perhaps she was too accustomed to the delicate ladies here, assuming I was also that kind of arrogant type. But she did not know that the demeanor of a true legitimate daughter need not be displayed on the face. Schemes must be hidden within rules, sharpness wrapped in gentleness. Moreover, in this life, how can marriage ever be perfect on both sides? Eldest sister's beauty toppled cities, yet she married an emperor the same age as father, burying her life behind cold palace walls. Second sister had only been married a few years, yet let a favored concubine give birth to several children, with endless disputes. Even third sister, whose marriage seemed perfect, was ultimately forced by her mother-in-law to accept a chambermaid. Being a woman in this world, if not fighting then yielding. Everything called clever calculation is merely the weighing of benefits and harms. Before the double Ninth festival, Lily's visiting card was sent to the Marquis' residence, the paper printed with sparkling gold letters, with the seal of the Wen brand on the right corner. She had been married into the Wen family for 3 years, sending letters of greeting every month without interruption. At the beginning of the year, she gave birth to an eldest son. Nanny Chen reported back that her conduct was decisive, bearing some resemblance to me. From Jingzhou to B City was only a 5-day journey. Not seeing her for 2 years, the little maid of the past had now become a radiant young matron. She walked gracefully, her skirt hem embroidered with gold shimmering under the light. The hollow carved gold phoenix hairpin in her hair was the coming-of-age gift I gave her that year. Her current appearance was even more imposing than many wives of officials, yet when she entered the main hall, she unexpectedly gathered her skirt and prostrated on the ground. Her hands wearing jadeite rings were raised above her forehead, performing the ceremony with utmost respect. Humble woman of the Wen family respectfully wishes the Marquise and the Marchioness peace and health. That respectful posture contrasted sharply with the magnificent clothes on her body. I glanced and saw Julian unconsciously straighten his back. He surely did not expect that the dignified mistress of a great Jingzhou merchant family would be as obedient as a maid from years ago in front of me. Since we are family, why the need for such a grand ceremony? Hearing this, Lily became even more respectful, her head bowing close to the marble floor. In front of master, this servant will forever be a servant. After standing up, she skillfully took the teacup, kneeling on the cushion at my feet, brewing tea just like in the past. Her hands wearing jadeite rings steadily lifted the jade cup, the white jade bracelet on her wrist chiming softly with her movements, and her posture was even 3 parts more standard than the maids of the Shu residence. It was all clearly stating to Julian that even a young mistress wearing gold and jade did not forget her past status. If a maid originating from the Prime Minister's residence knew how to keep etiquette like this, how would the Zhu residents dare to be rude? Indeed, Julian's expression changed repeatedly, finally using military affairs as an excuse to hurriedly withdraw. After he left, Lily once again performed the grand ceremony. This servant Lily respectfully wishes Master auspiciousness. She took out a brocade box from her sleeve, presenting it with both hands. Grain stores, silk workshops, and silver exchanges of the Wen family in B City, a total of 22 locations. Please Master kindly accept them. My finger lightly skimmed over the red seal bearing the surname Wen on the deed, and I suddenly laughed softly. If she could persuade her husband's family to gift their entire business in B City to me, surely her heart was thinking of more than just matters in the backyard. I pushed the deeds of the Chang'an businesses towards her, smiling and saying, when a woman employs strategy, I fear men cannot easily cope. Father often taught that layout must be early, action must be precise. To me, Lily was perhaps the living chess piece I had arranged long ago. When leaving, she knelt down to perform the ceremony again, but this bow was heavier than when she arrived. The knife had been placed in her hand, how to use it depended on her. That day, I was copying the list of New Year gifts. Suddenly looking up, I saw Julian had entered the room at some point. His gaze fell exactly on the book in front of me, which clearly recorded the items I had purchased on behalf of the second and third branches for everyone inside and outside the Shu residence over the past half-year. Cloud brocade dresses newly cut for the young ladies. Fox hair brushes and Huizhou ink replenished for the clan school. Even the horse saddles had been covered with embroidered pads. Madam has worked hard. He suddenly stepped closer, his voice gentler than ever before. A drop of dark ink pooled on the tip of the brush in my hand. I hurriedly stood up. When did husband arrive? These things are merely the sentence was unfinished when he pressed me back into the seat. Mother is advanced in age, starting tomorrow you should help out. I feigned ignorance and smiled, replying husband rest assured. These gift lists have been carefully reviewed by this concubine, ensuring no errors before submitting to mother for decision. This sentence was spoken very broadly, both implicitly hinting at my assistance, yet clearly showing I had no intention of seizing power. Julian sighed heavily. You are the Marquise's wife, properly wedded. Managing the central household is a matter of course. As for mother, I will personally speak to her clearly. I lowered my head, pursing my lips to hide the faint smile at the corner of my mouth. The logic of this life is inherently like this. When men need face, women must play the fool. Until it is truly necessary to handle matters, they must open their mouths to ask themselves. In Julian's heart, it was already clear as a mirror. Lady Shu held the central power but could not even manage the holiday social exchanges, while I, in the name of helping, allowed the whole residence to benefit. Now if he did not yield, spreading word outside would surely invite ridicule. At the family banquet on the 15th day, Lady Shu angrily threw the housekeeping token onto the table. That old woman probably still had not thought it through. Why was it that in just half a year, Even the youngest daughter she loved most began speaking on my behalf. Yes, mother. I did not step forward to accept the token, only saying softly, every blade of grass and tree in this residence is the result of your painstaking effort. This daughter-in-law is dull. From now on may I come every day at the hour of the dragon to ask for instructions. Lady Shu's face was gray as ash. If she agreed, it was tantamount to admitting she had handed over power. If she refused, she would appear petty. Finally, she could only snort lightly through her nose, considered as tacit permission. The ultimate move of boiling a frog in warm water lies in letting everyone see with their own eyes that it is Lady Su herself who can no longer handle the housework, while I am merely a virtuous daughter-in-law, forced to take over. At the Hall of Auspiciousness, the drum signaled the hour of the monkey. I sat upright on the main seat, my fingers lightly stroking the pattern on the blue and white jade, glazed teacup. 3/4 of the hour of the monkey had passed, yet only 70% of the stewards in the rows below had arrived. I did not say a word, and they began to whisper amongst themselves. Lucy stood at my side holding the housekeeping token, intending to speak up, but I shook my head slightly. It was still too early to flare up which 2 people were missing. I spoke gently, but my gaze slowly swept over the face of each steward. A steward in brown brocade stepped forward half a pace, bowing and saying, "Reporting to Madam. Steward Wang and Steward Li are unwell. They specifically asked this lowly one to request leave." I leisurely opened the teacup lid, gently brushing aside the floating foam. "Did you bring the account books along?" The hall immediately fell into silence. After a while, a wet nurse with graying hair boldly spoke up, "Madam, please examine clearly. In the residence heretofore we only needed to present a summary of income and expenditure for the old madam to look over. No need to bring account books." "Insolent!" Lucy shouted loudly. "Coming to pay respects without bringing books. Do you think Madam invited you to dine?" She stubbornly said. "It is not that we servants do not obey, but the residence has never had such a rule." I curled my lips slightly, smiling. "Steward, take the 2 who just answered and sell them immediately. As for the 2 claiming illness, remove their names from the registry from now on." The wet nurse's expression changed instantly. "This old servant has served in the Marquis residence for more than 20 years. Even the old madam has to give me 3 parts respect. Insolent." May stepped forward a pace, her voice clear as she questioned distinctly. "The old madam has always been benevolent and tolerant. Could it be she is the one condoning you people bullying the mistress, being stubborn and lazy, deceitful and covering up?" "Steward hasn't acted yet." Before she finished, a guy had already led a few guards rushing in, immediately seizing that wet nurse and taking her away. I stood up lazily, adjusting the 8-treasure hairpin in my hair. "Tomorrow at this same time, anyone who still fails to bring their books can simply be dealt with like this." The steward beside me was already trembling like a sieve, his shirt soaked with sweat. Passing by him, I casually dropped a sentence. "If there is a next time, you should also pack your bags early." The next day, before the hour of the monkey arrived, May came to report, her voice carrying a bit of excitement. "Master, all the stewards have arrived, and this time everyone brought their account books." I leaned against the soft pillow, my fingertips toying with the tassels on the brocade handkerchief, and said calmly, "What is the rush? Let them wait." Waiting for another 3/4 of an hour to rest, I finally allowed May to comb my hair and apply makeup. Today I had to perform a show of striking with the stick first to establish authority, so naturally, my appearance had to be a bit sharp and cold. When I entered the main hall, the group of stewards who were usually arrogant and conceited were already waiting respectfully, with not even half the imposing manner of yesterday. A steward's legs trembled like a sieve, nearly knocking over the blue glazed porcelain vase placed on the table. Just standing in a room with soft carpets waiting for half an hour. Since it was like this, it was enough to see how Lady Shu had indulged them to the point of lawlessness these past years, wishing Madam golden peace. Everyone knelt down in unison, their voices carrying a tremor. I leisurely took a sip of tea, letting them kneel for a long while before opening my mouth. "Stand up." The teacup was placed on the table, making a crisp sound, causing the whole group to shudder. "Have you brought all the account books?" "Yes, they are all here." The answers were messy, mixed with guilt. My gaze swept over each face, and I casually pointed to a female steward. "You, present your book." Her whole body trembled, holding the book with both hands as if holding hot charcoal. I took it from Lucy's hand, my fingertips lightly skimming over the paper. The paper of this book was still stiff and new, but there were unnaturally folded places on the edges. Opening the inside pages, the ink was unevenly dark and light, and some words had not even dried yet. First of the month, 1 pot of butterfly orchid, 50 taels. I read softly, my fingertip tapping lightly on that line. Date 20, 3rd of the month, 2 pots of yahuang peonies, 80 taels. 6th of the 5th month, 3 stalks of iris, 60 taels. With every sentence I read, the female steward's face turned a shade whiter. I continued to flip to the next page. 12th of the 6th month, fee for moving the golden osmanthus tree, 30 taels. 8th of the month, cleaning the lotus pond, 40 taels. Closing the account book, I looked at her, smiling yet not smiling. The garden of the Marquis residence here is no different from the imperial garden in the palace, is it? The steward immediately collapsed to the ground, sweat pouring down like rain. Madam, please examine clearly, these are all rare varieties, plus the cost of care. Oh, I maintained a faint smile, my fingertip stopping at the expenditure item for the 8th month. Then tell me, on the 25th of the month, where did you buy green calyx plum blossoms? This? May stepped forward, shouting sternly. Truly, having the gall of a dog, green calyx plums only appear in the 2nd month. Even in Chang'an City the price is not that high. Clearly you are embezzling. I slammed the book shut firmly. Drag her down. This time the steward did not dare to hesitate. Immediately 2 young pages rushed in, dragging the female steward who had gone limp like mud out. The main hall was deadly silent, as if there was no sound. I coldly glanced around, and the second steward, who was called by name, had a face gray as ash. I flipped through his account book, my voice neither heavy nor light. 8th, 30 caddies of pork, 20 caddies of goat meat, 15 live chickens, 10 live ducks. Replying to Madam. Sweat beaded on his forehead as big as beans. There are many masters in the residence, and we have to prepare for the year-end banquets. I did not speak, just leaning back slightly. Lucy understood the intention, pulling a small notebook from her sleeve. Breakfast in the east courtyard, 2 bowls of bird's nest porridge, 4 small steamed buns with crab roe filling, and 4 fresh seasonal vegetable dishes. 2nd quarter of the hour of the snake, 4 bowls of almond milk, 6 plates of rose cakes, 8 pieces of tuckahoe cake. Hour of the horse, 6 braised lion's head meatballs, 1 treasure duck, 4 bowls of yellow soup, 8 seasonal vegetable dishes. You try to say, with such a banquet table, is there a need for 30 caddies of pork and 20 caddies of goat meat? As soon as he knelt down, the bunch of silver keys at his waist chimed loudly. I suddenly laughed softly. That bunch of keys is truly exquisite, even sheenier than the bunch on the house steward. Suddenly my voice turned completely cold. Men, strip everything off his body for me. Immediately strip him of his position and expel him from the residence. The sound of begging gradually faded, and I leisurely took a sip of tea. Everyone listened clearly. Before I arrived I can overlook everything. But from now on, if anyone else embezzles or steals. The teacup was placed heavily on the table. 20 strokes of the rod, and the whole family will be sold. In this half year, I had investigated the personnel in the residence clearly. The people punished over these 2 days were the ringleader stewards who were most cunning and greedy. No one was more suitable to make an example of. Returning to the inner chamber, May could not help but say. Master, acting with thunderous force like this, is it a bit? You want to say offending people? May lowered her head. This servant dares not. I rotated the tassels of the accessory I had just removed, the sparkling string of pearls sliding past my fingertips. Lady Shu is not good at management. The Marquis residence has been rotting from the inside out for years. The internal finances are messy as a tangle of silk. Julian understands better than anyone. Handing power to me is borrowing my hand to eliminate the muths in the residence. If successful, I fulfill the duty of a mistress. If I fail, he can conveniently use me to silence his mother. I reorganized the purchasing books, separating the 2 sides of stewards to supervise each other. When reconciling accounts every month, both sides were required to sign, restraining each other. No one dared to act recklessly anymore. Thanks to this, monthly expenses were reduced by 60%. But I understood the principle that water too clear has no fish. If I cut off all their financial paths, I feared hidden resentment. Therefore, I deducted 20% to distribute as extra monthly salary for the servants. In summer, distributing mung bean soup to relieve heat. In winter, distributing charcoal to keep warm. There were subsidies for weddings and funerals, and even the sanitary pads for maids were changed to high-quality cotton cloth. In just 1 season, the Marquis residence had changed its skin and flesh. The servants worked harder, and even the flowers and grass under the corridor were trimmed neatly. Best of all, Lady Shu did not dare to casually find fault with me anymore. After all, the old women in her courtyard were also granted new clothes by me. Coming to April of that year, I leaned against a brocade pillow embroidered with gold thread. my fingertips lightly stroking my lower abdomen, which was still flat. May entered carrying medicine. The newly tailored spring clothes further accentuated her slender figure. I accepted the bowl of medicine, asking as if unintentionally, "May, how many years have you followed me?" May respectfully replied, "This servant has served by master's side since the age of 8. It has been exactly 9 years now." In the curling steam of the medicine, I saw her eyelashes tremble slightly under the light. Youth is truly beautiful, skin smooth as water about to drip onto the hand. I slowly took a sip of the bitter medicine, saying indifferently, "You and Lucy are both my trusted aides. If you have someone you like, just tell me. This servant, this servant." Her voice choked in her throat, her slender hands gripping the hem of her skirt tightly. Nanny Chen beside her took the opportunity to step forward. "This old servant sees this girl as smart and quick-witted, and knows how to read. She definitely has great fortune." "Oh." I laughed softly, reaching out to lift her chin. "Serving people as a maid is ultimately not a long path. With this appearance, you should have a proper status." Her whole body trembled, her eyes glistening like water. "Master." I held her hand, reinserting the silver hairpin in her hair. "Now my body is inconvenient. I need you close to handle things. You have always understood my mind best. If this position is not given to you, who else can it be given to?" This servant fears betraying Madame's generous treatment. What silly talk. Being a concubine is better than being a maid for a lifetime. May's eyes filled with tears, but she obediently nodded. "This servant will listen to all of master's arrangements. With me personally presiding, sponsoring May to be raised to a concubine, Julian was not the lustful type. What I needed was just a pair of eyes in the backyard. After all, a concubine granted by me was better than a chambermaid forced in by my mother-in-law." The day the child was born, plum blossoms bloomed everywhere in the residence. Julian held the red newborn, trembling, and wrote a letter that very night asking father to name him. Father gave the character, perseverance, implying eternal solidity and deep affection lasting generations. Julian naturally understood the deep meaning within. At the 100-day celebration of the child, Julian personally wrote a memorial requesting the title of heir apparent. I leaned against the window watching his back bent over the desk, suddenly remembering second sister's words in her letter. The 8th prince composed a poem impromptu before the emperor, causing the dragon countenance to be greatly pleased. 4 years passed, and I gave birth to another son and a daughter. The children of the concubines were also raised at my feet. Now when meeting me, even Lady Shu knew how to smile. After all, it was real gold and silver being thrown out, and that old woman enjoyed quite a bit of it. Julian became increasingly attentive, personally asking about even the rouge and powder I used. I knew all this was thanks to the Kong family's status in Chang'an. Rumor had it the Prince of Yan shot his arrow astray during the autumn hunt. The wind in the court had likely changed direction long ago. "Madam, the account books from the Wen family have arrived." Lucy brought in a wood box edged with gold. Lily was truly formidable. Borrowing the knife I handed her, she really opened up a big business. Now she controlled the Wen family brand. 3 parts of the profit were offered to me. 5 parts transferred into the palace through my hands, keeping only 2 parts for herself to manage. I glanced at the words, "Border Trade." On the cover of the book, borrowing the Su family's water transport routes, the Wen family's silk and tea cakes had been traded all the way to the western regions. Business was on the surface, but behind it was a flow of information from everywhere. Sometimes I truly admired her. The more like duckweed, the easier it is to drift with the waves, unlike me who had to think back and forth, even when attending a poetry gathering, afraid of being caught by someone. When the night rain brought fallen leaves filling the garden, bad news arrived from Chang'an. The emperor was critically ill. Lately, Julian returned home later and later, the official boots on his feet always stained with wet mud. His gaze looking at me also gradually became heavy. I knew what he was weighing. The arrow was on the string, and the time had come when it must be released. The 8th prince born to eldest sister was favored by the emperor, but ultimately was still young. The Prince of Han had plotted for a long time, his power in the court deep, rooted and intertwined like tree roots, hard to unravel. Just a moment of carelessness, and I feared it would be a disaster of clan extermination. That day teaching Ethan Shu to read the Zizi Tongjian to the section on the Battle of Fei River, the child suddenly asked, "Mother, Fujian had 1,000,000 strong soldiers, why was he defeated by 8,000 troops?" I raised the teacup on the table, watching the tea leaves slowly sink to the bottom. Fujian's mistake lay in taking the momentum of the mountains and rivers and mistaking it for his own ability. while Chen En won because he understood that truly gaining momentum does not lie in many soldiers or strong generals, but in the direction of the people's hearts. I looked at Ethan's understanding eyes, suddenly smiling and saying, "You must remember, ordinary people see chess pieces, while wise men see the situation. True victory has never been the moment of turning the tide, but when the new wind has just blown the young grass, the boat has already been prepared to sail. That is the way of rising and falling in the world." In the curling scent of tea, the sound of jade pendants clinking lightly rang out from behind the screen. Julian's silhouette appeared faintly on the gauze curtain. The autumn wind outside swept past, rolling up ginkgo leaves all over the ground. The wind has risen. At the third watch, Julian suddenly dressed neatly and entered the inner chamber. The candlelight cast his shadow on the wall. At this moment he looked like a sword just drawn from its sheath. I did not ask where he was going, nor did I need to ask. I simply took out a scented pouch, prepared long ago from a agar wood box, and placed it in his hand. Julian and I looked at each other and smiled. At that moment I finally understood. Father placed me in this chess game precisely so that on this day when wind and clouds gathered, the wisdom of the Kong family and the sharpness of the Su family could merge in one place. On the 80th day after Julian left the residence, the toll of funeral bells rang out from the official road. 9 tolls, the Son of Heaven has passed away. On the 100th day, at dawn Julian, wearing silver armor stained with blood, returned triumphantly to the Marquis' residence. The Prince of Han was defeated and died. The 8th prince ascended the throne. The new emperor was young, my eldest sister, with the status of Empress Dowager, lowered the curtain to listen to politics. The Kong family won a complete victory. 2 months later, father submitted a memorial requesting to resign from office, was granted the title Duke of Anding, and bestowed a residence in Chang'an to enjoy his old age. The Su family had the merit of supporting the emperor. Eldest sister wrote a secret letter, asking how Julian wanted to be rewarded, or perhaps be granted the title of general guarding the nation, and move the whole family to Chang'an. Julian was overjoyed, immediately dipping ink and wielding his brush. In every stroke, he could not hide his heroic spirit and smugness. Your subject kowtows to thank imperial grace. The new emperor is young, precisely needing subjects to assist with all their hearts. Although your subject is untalented, I am willing to move my entire family to Chang'an, guarding day and night, devoting my heart to the country. I stood watching coldly, seeing him finish writing. He even intentionally passed the letter over the flame to make the scented ink even richer. The sharpness between his brows had been replaced by the smugness of a smooth path. That night, he held a banquet in the residence, drinking wine to celebrate with the 2nd and 3rd branches. Old Lady Shu sat beside him, beaming with smiles. My son is truly a dragon and phoenix among men, a loyal heart of iron, who dares to look down on us. People from the 2nd and 3rd branches also clambered forward, talking and laughing boisterously, as if tomorrow the entire Shu family would become a newly risen noble family in Chang'an. Julian was half drunk, stumbling towards me, spreading his arms to embrace my shoulders. The fine wine in his cup spilled onto my skirt with his movements, spreading into a dark patch. "Why is madam not drinking?" His voice carried 3 parts drunkenness and 7 parts smugness. "This is wine aged 30 years, our residents specially kept it." I pushed the wine cup away, my voice already somewhat cold. "Marquis, please have self-respect." He seemed not to hear, still pressing the wine cup to my lips. "Madam is too suspicious. Now that the 8th prince has ascended the throne, does not half of this world belong to our Su family?" "Marquis." I stood up abruptly, my wide sleeve sweeping across the desk. The crisp sound of breaking immediately silenced the laughter in the hall. I looked around. The faces of the 2nd and 3rd branches still lingered with the pink flush of alcohol, yet their eyes looked at me with full dissatisfaction. Has the Marquis ever thought, if the Empress Dowager really wanted to summon the Su family into Chang'an, why did she not issue a direct decree? The drunkenness in Julian's eyes gradually receded, replaced by bewilderment and anxiety. This is a test. To see if the Su family understands the principle of retreating after achieving merit. Lady Shu suddenly slapped the table and stood up. "Absurd. My son fought on distant battlefields, establishing so many great merits. Now that the Kong family has lost power, you cannot bear to see my Su family rise. Mother." I suddenly raised my voice. "Do you understand the principle that when the cunning rabbit is dead, the hunting dog is cooked? Why did father choose the day the new emperor ascended to submit his resignation? The deep meaning within, do you still not understand?" My eyes were cold as frost, slowly sweeping over every face in the hall. Look through the history books. No new monarch has ever feared enemies holding swords in the open. But they fear precisely those meritorious officials, knowing how many wronged souls of those who died in battle are pressed beneath that throne. Just as the last word finished, thunder roared violently outside the window. The entire hall seemed to be struck by a stick, everyone's face turning white without a trace of blood. I pulled an intercepted secret letter from my sleeve. The Kong family holds the pen of civil service. The Su husband holds military power, two powers gathering in one place. Ask yourself how the new emperor can sleep peacefully. The wine cup in Julian's hand fell, making a clattering sound. The alcohol had turned entirely into cold sweat. So that is it. Lady Shu was still unreconciled. But the Empress Dowager is after all my son's sister-in-law. I asked back. Does mother know why this secret letter used the fire, lacquer seal engraved with a phoenix, and not the private seal of the Kong family? That is precisely the Empress Dowager reminding me. The person currently sitting in the Palace of Benevolent Peace is the Empress Dowager holding the imperial jade seal, not the sister who years ago combed my hair. Entering the palace gate severs family ties. For this entire life she is only a woman of the imperial family, no longer a daughter of the Kong family. I softened my voice. The Marquise is a wise person. Are you willing to listen to this concubine's words? The look of intoxication on Julian's face had completely vanished. I saw clearly his clenched hands gradually loosening. Finally he raised his head to look straight at me, seriously clasping his hands and bowing. Please, madam, teach me. I picked up the brush, writing several lines powerfully and steadily. Your subject kowtows to thank imperial grace, but old wounds have not healed, fearing to fail expectations. Willing to guard Bai City for this life, devoting all heart to the emperor. The haze in Julian's eyes gradually turned into helplessness. After reading, his expression became clear again. He took the brush, solemnly signing his name at the bottom, then burned the old secret letter in the flame. At that moment, I knew he understood. In this chess game of the world, sometimes retreating a step is actually advancing a step. 2 months later, the imperial decree was issued, promoting Julian from Marquis of Huai to Duke of Huai, with hereditary succession guarding B City. Lady Shu and I were both granted equivalent ranks, and the second and third branches were also rewarded. At the same time, news arrived. My eldest brother's second son entered the palace as a reading companion for the prince, and third sister's youngest daughter was married into the imperial clan. In the newly built bamboo garden after father retired, the new emperor personally inscribed 4 characters. Merit lies in the state, hanging at the highest place. In this chess game, I gave up the empty fame of Chang'an, but won a lifetime of peaceful inheritance for the Shu family. Just as father once said, a true winning game never lies in the gains and losses before one's eyes, but in calculating the rise and fall of 100 years later. A few years later, willow catkins drifting, I received a letter from mother, saying father was idle planting flowers and missed his grandson very much. I understood his meaning, thinking for a moment, then writing down the list of people accompanying. Lily's son was 9 years old this year, similar in age to Ethan, very suitable to be a study companion. When I stood up, I saw Ethan practicing calligraphy in the courtyard, the turning strokes revealing father's style. Lily waited under the flower-drooping gate, and before I opened my mouth, she presented a gold-inlaid gift box. Master, the residence in the West Market of Chang'an is ready, just separated from the back wall of the Kong residence by a wall. Before departing, I placed the purple hairbrush father gave me years ago into the luggage. Remember carefully, you going to Chang'an is not just to meet your maternal grandfather, but to meet the old officials of 3 reigns, the Kong family elders. The tea of the Kong residence, the account books of the Wen family, the sword of the Su family. In this world where strings are easily tangled, you must understand everything thoroughly. Ethan bowed to perform the ceremony, his voice immature but carrying a calmness beyond his age. Mother, rest assured, learning is like sailing against the current. This son going this time will definitely not lose the face of the Shu family gate. At the dock, I looked at the 2 children of the same age, one carrying the blood of noble scholars, one holding the lifeline of commerce in his hand. In a few years, it would be another cycle of destiny. In recent years, Lady Shu's health was not good. If she passed away, 3 years of mourning would delay the discussion of Ethan's marriage. I considered many times, wrote a letter, and sent a fast horse to Chang'an. Half a month later, father's reply arrived. The handwriting danced like dragons and phoenixes, writing only a single character, Zhang. Zhang was the national surname. Julian and I looked at each other and smiled, immediately understanding the implication. Over the years, the Shu family knew when to advance and retreat, outwardly appearing to be in remote Bai City. In reality, we had long become favored subjects of the new emperor. If the new emperor wanted to continue pruning the branches of the noble families, the Shu family was the sharpest knife. In the autumn of the third year after Lady Shu passed away, the mourning period ended. The imperial decree for marriage arrived in B City with the fragrance of cinnamon flowers. Princess Xianrong had just turned 14, the same age as Ethan. With the wedding set for 3 years later, I looked at the 4 characters, eternal alliance of Qin and Jin. In the decree, thinking what could be a better binding strategy than marriage alliance. The heir apparent's marriage was set, and the marriages of the other children in the residence also needed calculation. The second son, Hong, was chosen by Julian himself, discussing marriage with the Q family, the governor of Zhangzhou. "What does madam think?" Julian asked me. I replied, "Very good. The Kui family controls the military supply transport of Zhangzhou, but is far from the troubles of Chang'an, just like how father chose to marry me to the Su family years ago. What is valued is this suitability." Besides my biological daughter Stella Su, there were also 2 daughters of concubine Mei and concubine Wang, all 3 raised under my knees since childhood. In the spring, the Hu family from Chang'an came to discuss marriage. When the horoscope card just arrived in my hand, Stella rushed straight in. She craned her neck, tears welling in her eyes. "I do not want to marry. The teacher in the girls' school said women should also have their own ambition. How can I be like an ordinary woman marrying to live in the backyard, imprisoned for a lifetime?" I reached out to smooth the embroidered vine pattern on my dress, laughing softly, suddenly remembering more than 20 years ago. My eldest sister also knelt before father stubbornly like this, daring to disobey the elders. "Do you know, ambition without the protection of power is just like the sentimental poetry of poor scholars, written out not worth a single coin." She still craned her neck, wanting to say something more, but I just raised my hand slightly. "Since you like the girls' school so much, then just go and study carefully what a girls' school really is." That night, Stella was put into a small sedan chair and escorted straight to the Wen family girls' school. Less than a month later, she sent a letter begging for help, saying she was wrong. I burned the letter in the flame. "No rush, just leave it there." 3 months later, Stella knelt at my feet, her simple clothes washed until the color faded. A precious young lady of the inner chambers like this, entering the girls' school, had to wash her own clothes every day, even carry hot water herself, and at night light candles to sew scented pouches to earn a living. "Mother," her voice trembled, "I truly know I was wrong." I sat upright on the chair, accepting the teacup. The tea water was clear as a mirror, reflecting the pale face of my second child. "You thought that studying for a few days at a girls' school meant you understood this whole world." I took a sip of tea. "You have never seen a real girls' school, so you do not know there are also ranks of 3, 6, and 9. The girls' school in Alley 3, East Street, has 30 girls crowded into a dilapidated house. Their first lesson is learning to wash clothes, because if they do not know, tomorrow they will have no clean clothes to wear. The reason the Shu family allows you to be willful is because behind you lies the property built by ancestors. But those girls, if they do not learn to be independent, tomorrow they will starve to death on the streets. Do you know that the gilded cage you loathe is the jade tower and golden platform they cannot reach even in a lifetime of dreaming?" Stella kowtowed on the green tiles, her forehead hitting hard again and again. "Mother, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong." "No, you do not understand yet." I slammed my hand on the table. "You do not understand why the majority of teachers in girls' schools are men, nor do you know those men who speak high morals criticizing foot binding one day, keep singing girls with 3-inch lotus feet the next. The 9 layers of the palace are still ruled by men. National laws and rituals ultimately still take the husband as the guiding principle. Even your aunt who sits behind the curtain listening to politics wrote the women's understanding of history, but in the end had to let the men of the Hanlin Academy write the annotations." I raised the teacup, watching the tea leaves silently sink to the bottom. Perhaps in 100 years, women can truly serve as officials alongside men in the court, but currently this world still belongs to men. A smart woman never confronts the world directly, but must learn how to walk the most beautiful path within a framework that seems narrow. Seeing Stella crying violently, I knew that at this moment she had truly awakened. The marriage engagement with the Hu family was set for the spring of the following year. I also married Ru, the daughter of concubine Mei, to Lily's son. The second and third branches had known their place these past years, so naturally I also wanted to save face for them. The eldest daughter of the second branch had a calm temperament, suitable to participate in the selection for the palace, not seeking glory, just silently planting a chess piece of the Su family in the deep harem was enough. The eldest daughter of the third branch was quick, witted and smart, marrying the son of the prefect, making the Sue family's roots in Bai City even firmer. I had been married to Julian for 32 years. When the autumn rain fell incessantly, he finally took a step before me, leaving the human world. For so many years, between him and me, rather than saying we were husband and wife, it is better to say we were two companions joining hands to steer a boat through wind and waves. The thoughts of weighing gains and losses from years ago finally followed a handful of yellow earth covering the coffin, leaving nothing behind. Ethan knelt before the coffin, the seal of the head of the household already hanging at his waist, and I had become the grandmadam in the mouths of the younger generation. Kitchen matters had been handed over to Princess Xianrong. Every day, I only sat under the corridor, quietly watching flowers bloom and fade in the residence. That day being idle, I set up a chessboard with Annie. The child was just 10 years old. Every time she placed a piece she carried a few parts of hesitation. "Grandmother, it is your turn." I gently placed a black piece right in the center of the board. "Annie, do you know why grandmother always lets you hold the white pieces?" Annie shook her head. "The white pieces have been forced into the corner of the board. Because the white pieces move second, they need to understand the times even more." I stroked her hair adorned with a flower hairpin. "Life is like a chess game, women are like the white pieces, moving later. We must see even more clearly." Annie suddenly leaned close, asking softly, "Then grandmother, have you ever fought?" "Fought? I fight not for winning or losing, but for measure." A parasol tree leaf gently fell, covering exactly the intersection between the chess lines. I slowly brushed the leaf aside to reveal the tangled lines underneath. "You look at these white pieces seeming to yield and retreat, but actually they are retreating to advance, while those black pieces kept attacking, driving themselves into a trap." Annie's eyes gradually lit up with understanding. I stroked the child's soft silky hair, holding her hand, and gently poured tea onto the parasol tree leaf. The water spread out in all directions following the leaf veins. I slowly said, "Years ago, your grandfather always wanted to compete high and low, but it was I who taught him that a true winning game does not lie in killing on the chessboard, but in the wisdom of knowing how to follow the situation. You must remember, the path of life is not about walking out, but about choosing. To fight is not to fight, not fighting is truly fighting." I held the child's hand, placing a white piece in a position that seemed hopeless. The setting sun stretched the shadows of the grandmother and grandchild into a long line on the ground, one old, one young, sitting quietly under the corridor as the evening sun faded. The black piece in my hand, unbeknownst to me, had warmed up from my body heat. I gently placed it back into the chess box. And that's the end of our story. Thank you for joining Red Lantern Audio. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to support the channel. Have a wonderful day.